Hi, have you been wondering how to put on sashing on your Quilters You Go blocks and you can't figure it out? I've got you covered. I am Kim. This is Quilt with Kim. Let's switch camera and we'll get right onto it. Here we go. So these are two blocks that I've prepared in advance. This is a disappearing 4-patch block. So if you want to know how to make that, check down below here and I'll put the link to that video. So we have got our sashing here on the front and we've got a yellow strip on the back. So you can have the same fabric or different fabric. It is entirely up to you, just depends on what you want your finished piece to look like. Okay, just a couple of things though. This is going to be machine stitched down the front. If I hold this up, you can just about see the stitch line there. Okay, we're going to stitch that down, which means on the back there is a corresponding little stitch line there. Can you see? So I've done that stitch line in the same colour as this backing here, and then it disappears. To me, I'm not concerned about that showing. If you don't want that line to be showing down the back, then you need to reverse the process I am about to show you. So here we are with our two blocks. Now it is important to prepare your blocks beforehand. So I have prepared these are Quilt As You Go blocks. I have done my sandwiching, I've done my quilting, and I have trimmed and squared them to size. So if you don't know how to square your blocks, again, that I've done a video on that, so check down below here and I'll put the link to that one as well. So the finished size of these blocks as they are at the moment are 8.5 inches square. Okay, as is normally the case when you do some quilting, all this can happen at the side where you get a little bit of your wadding showing and it goes a bit wibbly wobbly. Don't worry about it. We get rid of all of that when we do our sashing and to some extent put borders or binding on at the end. Okay, so to get started we need a couple of our sashing strips. So if you remember from the one I did earlier, we've got the burgundy here, it is on the front, and the yellow goes on the back. Can you see that? So in my case here, I've got a 1-inch strip for the fabric that goes on the back, and I have a 2-inch strip of the fabric that goes on the front, and that is a 2-inch strip, but it is folded and pressed in half. Okay, and these strips are exactly the length of your block that you are needing to put the sashing on. So these edges here are 8.5 inches, so these are 8.5 inches in length. So this back one 8.5 inches by 1 inch, and the burgundy one is 8.5 inches in length, and it's 2 inches wide, pressed, folded in half, so it ends up looking like an inch. Okay, so that is your job one. I'll put that to one side for the moment. Make sure that if you're doing a pattern, that your pattern is the right way round, particularly when I'm doing this kind of thing where we've got all sorts of exciting things happening. So let's take this block here. Now, your burgundy one, in my case, is the front one. So I'm going to put that with the raw edges. Okay, so the raw edges are here, right sides together along that edge there. Okay, because that's the edge that is going to join onto the block next to it. Then I'm going to get my 1-inch strip and that's going to go behind. All right, just like that. So if I break that down, I've got my 1-inch strip there that is right sides together to the back, that is placed carefully on top of it, and then my 2-inch folded strip for the front is going to go on top. So I've got a bit of an extra sandwich going on here. All right, now if you've got some clips are marvellous. Get some of these for your quilting room. We're going to carefully clip that together. You can pin it if you like. I just find clips a little bit easier when I've got lots of bulk going on. Make sure that all your edges are matching very nicely together. So don't let this yellow one sneak off to other places, because sometimes they like to do that. Okay. So having done that, the next thing, we're going to go to our machine and we're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch down the edge here. Now you'll need your walking foot on. So if you've been doing some quilting, keep your walking foot on for this stage. You'll need that. And you need to put your stitch length to a 3 or a 3.5. We've got quite a lot of bulk to get through here, so you need to increase your stitch length, okay? And guess what? I've got a video on that as well. I've got a lot of videos to put down here for the links, but you need to increase your stitch length. So I would go for a stitch length 3 and use a quilting needle of 80 or 90, one of those would be fine. So let's get over to the machine and I'll show you how to stitch that down. Okay, I think this probably looks like a bird's eye view of my machine here. So my walking foot is on. I've got the machine set to 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to line that up carefully. I've got my stitch length at 3. I can't see any of my buttons to push to put my needle down. And then off we go. Okay, so straight down here as 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so there's our stitch line down here. Now we've got to do a bit of clever magic trickery to get the other piece on. So let me get my my machine out of the way and we'll go and do that bit. Okay, so now with the machine out of the way, we need to join our next block on, okay, with the sashing in the middle. And this is a bit that's a little bit tricky. Once you've got it, you'll get it. Well, once you get it, you'll get it, whatever the phrase is. It took me 2 or 3 goes when I first learnt this many moons ago. So I'm going to do it 2 or 3 times with you so you've got it, okay? So if you've got a couple of blocks and you've got your sashing strips, you can do this along with me. So first things first, our backing bit strip here, I'm just going to flip out like that, okay? It just makes life a little bit easier. I'm going to hold it in my left hand. It doesn't matter whether you're right or left-handed, I don't think, because you're going to be using both hands. So I'll hold that in my left hand. If you remember, this backing strip has to go right sides together onto the backing of your other block or your block. So I'm going to lift that up with my right hand and put those right sides together. Do you see? Like that. Hold that. And if I fold all that up and flip it, now I've got my right sides together. Can you see how that works? So let me do that again. Okay, so here's the one we've just stitched on. This is our second block. First of all, I'm going to flip out that back sashing strip there, ready to go. So the bit you can see here is the wrong side. The right side of it is facing down towards my cutting mat. I need it to attach on to the right side of my second block. So with it open here, in my left hand, I'm going to hold that. With my right hand, I'm going to pick up the top corner of the second block and I'm going to place those right sides together. And then if I stroke down, you can match up the right sides all the way down the side of that block, hold and flip. Okay, shall I do that one more time? If you don't need to see it again, just whiz forward a couple of seconds. So let's do it one more time together. So take out that backing sashing strip there, so the right side is facing down. Hold that in your left hand. In your right hand, pick up this second block. I've got thread everywhere. Pick up this second block with the right side facing up, so this backing bit. I put the backing right sides together with the right side or the back of your strip here. Stroke that all the way down so it matches, and then flip it. Okay, got that? So now, having got those together in the right place, I'm going to, I can either pin them or I can put my little clips on. I do need to make sure, in my case, that we've got this centre seam matching. Okay, so I'm going to get my clips in place. So you will see you've got a tiny amount here that we're going to stitch down in a minute, but don't worry, it'll all work out. Put those clips on there. One there. So that is all clipped, and now we're going to go back to the machine. So let me get my machine out and we'll do this next bit together as well. So the next bit is we have to stitch into this little space here. It is a bit tight, but actually this is what we want because we don't want any gaps, and you'll see how this all works together when we do the final piece. So let's get this onto my machine. We're still 1/4 inch. Okay, we're tight, but we're there. So let's get this going. Okay, we're not stitching this down, by the way, we're just stitching on the yellow in my case. So we've stitched, can you see how close that is to this section here? But we've stitched 1/4 inch all the way down. I don't know why, I've got a strange bit of thread there. Okay, so let's take the machine away and move back to the cutting mat, and I'll show you how this all suddenly works together. There we go, this is the bit that we've just stitched on down here. Then we're going to flip out your other block. And if you just give it just a little tug, you'll see that the two raw edges here then sit nicely together in this gap. Okay. Then, this is where the magic happens. We take our folded sashing strip here and fold it over. So I'm going to just twizzle this round slightly so I can stick some pins in. I'm going to start in the middle. And you want to pin all the way through. If it relaxes back, just give it a little tug and tell it to lay flat. You're in charge of your fabric. I know sometimes we think it's in charge of us, but I promise you are in charge. Okay, so there's a pin in there. And then let's get a little pin in here. When you're doing this, just feel to make sure that it's not relaxing too much in itself. If you've done your quarter seams correctly, it'll all lay flat for you. I'm just going to put another pin in there for good measure. And what's happened down here? Let's just take that out and pop another pin in. And we'll pop another little pin in there like that. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is go back to our machine and carefully stitch down that edge. So let me get my machine back and show you how to do that. On this bit, we want to be stitching as close to the edge as you can here. So it may be a case of getting the reading glasses out. I've got my needle moved so I can get there. And we're going to go carefully down this line. Remember to take your pins out as you go as well. If you go slowly, you'll be able to keep a nice straight line down the edge. Also with my left hand, I'm just making sure I'm stroking this sashing strip over to the right. I'm a bit wobbly there. That's good. It's because I'm sewing standing up with all things in the way. There we go. That's that. So there we go with our strip all stitched down the edge there. So let's move the machine out of the way and have a proper look at that. Here we are. So we've stitched all the way down this side. If you want to give that a quick press, you can absolutely do that. And then what we would do, we'd get our other ones that we've been doing, and then I would do the same thing and put sashing strips through the middle as well. So again, what we'd do is we'd measure along there. So that's 8.5 and 8.5, so that's 17. So these strips here, we're going to do exactly the same way, but they'll be the length of all your blocks stitched together. So I'm going to do that now off camera, but I'll meet you back in just 1 second and show you what the finished piece looks like. So I'll see you in just a mo. And there we have it. So that is the centre sashing added in to join those two halves together. And doesn't that look effective? Do you know, it's magic, isn't it? These centre squares are exactly the same size, but the dark recedes, whereas the lime green here really expands, but they're all on the same line and they look really different. So from that point, when you've got your whole quilt, when you've sashed your entire quilt, you just pop your binding on. I'm not going to bind this because I'm saving this for a future YouTube video. You have to watch out to find out what that one is. But that is how you add sashing onto your blocks. I hope that has been really helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing what you've made, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.